Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. It's episode 17 of Future Strong. My name's Nikki Garchair, and I'm the co-founder and chief customer officer at Capfinity. Capfinity is a global business supporting clients from recruitment, talent acquisition needs to talent management. And we have been running Future Strong since before Christmas, Lindsay and I, to address all things to do with supporting college recruitment and early career recruitment at these unusual times. And we've been blessed with an array of guests. We have a soft spot for our guest today because we have presented with her several times. Lindsay and I have particular topics that we love to probe Jada on, so it's going to be a fun show. But Lindsay, without further ado, please tell everyone about yourself.
Thank you, Nikki. My name is Lindsay Pollock. I am the US half of the team. I am a career and workplace author and speaker. My latest book is called Calculating: Navigate Your Career Through the Changing World of Work. And I am passionate, as is Nikki, about all things early career success. And Nikki, I think that we just created this show to talk to our friends, because every 2 weeks we just bring on somebody that we like and talk about it. And that sort of seems to work for us.
It does, and we're super excited about maybe doing this in person sometime. We had a little moment this week where we envisaged being on the stage together. So let's hope that happens in what year are we in? 2021. I always struggle with that a bit. This is where you keep me truthful.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're going to stick with from the pandemic is never knowing what day it is. But it is Friday, which means it's time to introduce our guest. So thrilled. We'll let her introduce herself because we probably won't do it justice, but please meet our good friend, Jada Green. Jada, tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I also enjoy talking to you both. Not a big secret. So my name is Jada Green. I'm our candidate experience lead for North America at Accenture. So I get the fun job of getting to look at our candidate experience, how we interact with candidates, how they're feeling, what's resonating with them, and creating experiences both from a digital standpoint to the human connection standpoint for that really pivotal moment of when people are looking for a new career. So it's a very fun job, and excited to be able to talk with you all today about some of the things that we do at Accenture and a little bit of my career journey, figuring this all out along the way. So really pumped to be here today.
Thank you. Let's do that. I would love to hear how you first got into this field. So take us from that story to, you know where I'm going with this, the moment we all talk about that day in March 2020 when you realized that everything was going to change. You were relatively new in your role. So tell us how you got involved in this career, and then how you got to Accenture to this moment.
Yeah, so I actually come from an engineering background. I went to Georgia Tech, thought I wanted to do engineering. I did a co-op.
Did you know that, Nikki? I didn't know that.
No, did you see me smiling? Extra smiles. Great. This is why it's so good. You bring people in, you learn things.
I had no idea.
So
sorry to interrupt.
I was fully into physics and math, and that was my cup of tea. And then I did a co-op in engineering, realized that's not what I wanted to do. Had heard a lot of good things about consulting, and began my recruiting experience looking at consulting firms. Ultimately fell in love with Accenture and the people that I met there and the interactions that I had. So I joined Accenture about 5 years ago. And I originally joined on the consulting side. So working with our clients in the travel industry and looking at the experiences that we create from a technology and digital experience standpoint. And so through that work, I found a love for experience design and getting to bring empathy into the work that we do. So I always had somewhat of a technical background, but I also really enjoy talking to people and helping people. We've talked about before, I think, that I was an RA and an orientation leader. And so experience design was this way that I could think about things from a technical perspective, but also from that human perspective and the empathy piece of it, and those experiences that our clients were bringing to their customers. And then I was doing that on the client side, but then also really got involved internally in some of the things we were doing in recruiting and some of the things we were doing with our new joiner experience, and fell in love with that the same way I did as being an orientation leader in an RA, and really helping people through that big step in life of transitioning to a new career. And then about 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to merge those two things. So that love for experience design and the passion that I had found for our recruiting space, and took on a role as our candidate experience lead, which at the time was a brand new role. I had no idea what that was going to mean, really. I knew that I was going to get to look at our experiences from a recruiting perspective and get to bring my view as someone who had been in that seat, who had been recruited for our consulting side of things and knew the work that we do and knew what these people were going to be doing in their day-to-day jobs, getting to bring that to the table and really think about new and innovative ways that we could deliver an experience that's actually, Nikki, I think I met you maybe a couple of months after I started in that role.
I'm feeling extra empathy considering as you met us, we then decided to do some quite innovative things that you would have had to have thrown yourself into full-heartedly. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, one of our very first initiatives was transforming the way that we interviewed. And so we partnered with Capfinity to do that and to bring things like virtual reality and new digital assessment experiences. And I threw my whole heart and soul into that first year. So Capfinity was actually a huge piece of my first year in the role. And then a year in, I'm just getting my sea legs. I am figuring out what this role is going to mean. I've spent a lot of time looking at the interview experience. I'm starting to look at those more in-person experiences, those real things that we can bring by bringing people into our innovation hubs, those connections that we make with people, our experienced hire lens, our entry-level lens of how is that going to be different. We actually bring on an events team onto my team to help bring these things to life. And I think the first two people on the events team we brought in January of 2020. And we had begun building what that team was going to look like, how they were going to travel to different locations and create these experiences. And then I get a call in March when we had started seeing everything in the news. We weren't really sure what coronavirus meant for us yet. And then it was starting to get really real, really fast. I think we all remember that moment, especially the moment of going to the grocery store and being like, I don't know, I'll just get some things. And I get a call that says, we need to change our entire internship to virtual, and we need to come up with what that plan is going to look like in the next 48 hours. Our internship planning is a very, very big effort. We call it our summer analyst program. There is a whole team dedicated to that who put a lot of thought and time into that. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking to think, okay, we're going to have to change this whole thing. And the reason we needed to do it so quickly is because we needed to know that it was going to work. And a lot of people were getting calls from companies saying they weren't going to be able to honor their internship. And we needed to know, are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to do it meaningfully to where they're still going to learn, they're still going to be able to contribute, they're still going to be a part of the work that we do? And are we going to be able to do that? And can we tell them right away? So that's why we needed to come up with that plan in such a short amount of time. Is what will this actually look like? Is it going to be worthwhile for them? What kind of jobs can we give them? Because that was our number one thing. We've promised these people a job. We've promised these people that they're going to have a way to make income in the summer. They've built their plans around this. And so we all rallied together, had day-long working sessions, just virtual calls of a lot of people on the call working through different areas of the experience. And we originally started looking at, okay, what is our experience now, and how are we going to shift this? And then very quickly realized we got to throw it all out, because that's not the world that we live in right now. And so threw it all out, started from stage one of what are people feeling right now? What are they thinking right now? What do they need to know? How is this going to look in summer of 2020, which we didn't know much of anything. I mean, honestly, I was like, we're going to come up with this plan and then maybe it'll all be gone by May. And is all of this going to be just in vain and not something that we use? Little did we know. And so it was a really cool experience just seeing everyone come together and come up with this new way of interacting with our candidates and our summary analysts. And I think we did a really good job of coming up with experiences like getting a welcome box and really feeling like we were welcoming you in to the Accenture family, having a lot of virtual calls, having a lot of sessions and virtual happy hours, those types of things that have made that experience meaningful in person, and bringing that into the virtual world. And I'm really, really proud of that whole team and of the work that we did to have a great experience for our summary analyst. And it's been a wild ride. We're going into this year with a virtual summary analyst experience again. So at least this year we have a little bit of a playbook in place, and can make it even better. So it's very exciting. But it's definitely been, that was my second year in the role of, and not just that, right? That was just the beginning, the summer analyst experience. That was just that March. And then it was, okay, now we need to pivot everything to virtual and figure out what that looks like. So it's been very fun, and it's definitely taught us that you can't just think you have a plan in place. You've always got to have that backup plan, that plan B, that plan C. You always have to have a different way in the back of your mind of how it could go, because at any moment, and even this year, right, as things are starting to get back to some type of normalcy, a new sense of that, we don't know what that's going to look like. And so it's about being ready at any moment for any type of experience that our people are going to be comfortable with, and that's going to bring the most value from a recruiting perspective.
It's thank you for sharing the kind of the narrative around it, because I think it's so impactful. And Lindsay and I have been privileged to see some of the things. You created passports, didn't you, for individuals, so they felt like they were still going on this journey and traveling. It's so wonderful. One of the things that you shared with Lindsay and I think back last December, and you've just mentioned it, is like this plan B, always having this plan B. And for you back in 2020, the plan B you really wanted was not necessarily there'll be a pandemic, but if we have to go virtual at any point for any reason, what will it be? As you now look forward, and I'm thinking every year you clearly have to have a sensational year in your role, Jada, because you've had two pretty kind of big things that you've done. What are some of the things that are going to be on this year's plan? And I appreciate you don't want to give all your kind of tricks away, but what are some of the things that maybe you learned from last year, but are upcoming for the Accenture interns and the teams?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going into this year with that virtual approach, but then always having in the back of our mind, there could be a point where people feel safe and we are ready to bring in some in-person experiences. Right now, that's not where we're at. So we do have that virtual approach. And thankfully, like you said, we've had a year of learning to be able to help us make that even better this year. So some of the things that we're taking into this year are some of those real wins, like we had with our summer analyst experience around bringing a little bit of that physical with the virtual through things like welcome boxes, through things like the passport that we created last year. And just a little bit on that too, in case anyone's interested, it was actually a big hit the last time we talked about it. It was a passport that really helped bring in things like getting a stamp for going through this learning experience, or for talking to these people and making connections, and helping bring this journey into something that people could take with them. We are bringing some of that into more of a digital world this year, and more of those interactive experiences. We also heard a lot around learning experiences, and so we are offering more ways for people to learn things digitally, build skills like the core skills that you use in consulting, everything down to Excel and PowerPoint, and bringing those types of things in play. But I think one of the main things that we learned as we look at the virtual experience for the fall is a lot of people had very large info sessions for these virtual experiences, very large ways for people to learn about their company, where it's a lot of people on a video call. We've looked at research behind that and have found that a lot of people prefer those more high touch, those smaller groupings, those smaller experiences. So while there's definitely an avenue and a purpose to those larger sessions where it is just kind of learning the baseline of who is Accenture, what do we do, you can't underestimate the value of the human connection and picking up the phone and calling someone and just listening to them, getting to know them, helping people connect with other people at your company that may work in an area that you've heard that this candidate's interested in, right? And you can only learn that through these one-on-one conversations. You can only really learn what someone's looking for in their career through those. We'll be doing a lot more of those one-on-one connections because of the value that we've seen through that, a lot more of those kind of smaller groupings. Another fun one that I think we've talked about before too is helping people when they can't be at a place in person to still get to know the people and the culture through things like what I think one of my favorite events last year was a neighborhood tour, essentially, which was for our Charlotte area, which is where I'm based. We had our summer analyst have a neighborhood tour virtual session where our different analysts who are in roles that these summer analysts would go into as a full-time employee talked about where they live and actually showed us their homes and showed us their neighborhoods, kind of walked around and helped see what it would be like to live there, talked about some of the things that they do with their friends, the activities that they do on the weekend, because especially with entry-level talent, a lot of people are not just making a career change, they're actually making a really big change in their life and moving to new cities, and are gonna have to build up new networks and friend bases. And so that piece was really important too, and something that we'll take with us and plays to that smaller and connection piece and that vulnerability piece. So you can't get more vulnerable than bringing someone into your home. I think during that one, I told this story of actually being in the closet, I was in my closet at one point, just trying to kind of get to a different location that I needed to. And I was in my closet on that call, and I was like, I guess it can't get more real than this. This is me, and these are my clothes, and this is how I color coordinate them, and talking about the different neighborhoods that you live in. So it's those small things. It's about being vulnerable. It's about being real and connecting with people and finding new ways to do that in a virtual world. And I think that will also go into the more in-person world, just understanding the value of those connections and those smaller groupings and the one-on-one. I think we're going to take that with us and make sure that we put an emphasis on that. You can get really fancy with digital experiences, and we have all the bells and whistles with our digital experiences, and those things bring value. But there's nothing like talking to someone.
Thank you, Jada. Trudy Steinfeld, our friend, pointed out in the chat that it seems like really focusing on real connecting and conversations. Can you just say a little bit more, you touched on it, but a little bit more about how you plan to continue that intimacy of being in closets and connecting one-on-one when we're back in person? And I know, Nikki and I have spoken to a lot of companies where a lot of the interns and early career professionals said one of the advantages of the pandemic was that they had more exposure the senior leaders because they would jump on a Zoom where they would never kind of walk into their office. Do you have any plans, or have you thought about continuing that access and sense of belonging, which is a word we talk about a lot when people go back in person, not knowing when that will be, but I'd be curious your thoughts. Thank you, Trudy, for the question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that one thing that we've realized is that it has to be really purposeful. You can't just expect it to happen, right? Especially when we're talking about connecting people with senior leads. And that's one thing that we've also seen in research is that people really like that touch. People really like when someone more senior in the company does take the time just to pop in and say hello and get to know you, or say congratulations on your offer. And those little things make a lot of difference. And you can't expect it, especially when we start getting back in person, and especially in an industry that we're in where people are always on the go, that's just going to happen organically. And so we've been building out buddy programs and mentor programs that really help bring some structure to that, to where we purposefully are helping someone build their network within Accenture. It's something that I think we've realized and will always want to continue to improve on because of the value that it has. And so putting structure and creating programs and this is a commitment that you're making as someone at Accenture. This is a commitment you're making to helping us bring in people to the company, and helping them realize the importance of that, even if that's just texting here and there. One of my first things is always when I talk to a candidate is, here's my number, text me if you have any questions, like we can hop on a call, and really kind of giving that real accessibility with boundaries, right? We always have to have boundaries, but making sure that people understand the impact that it has and bringing some structure to that, to where it does become something that you do on your calendar. This is a thing that you commit to and a connection that we help people make, because people are always going to be on the go. You can't expect everyone to be picking up the phone without some sense of planning, especially when our days are so packed and so busy. And it's just going to continue to pile on when people start getting back to traveling and getting back to in-person again.
Jada, one of the things that I think Accenture's been at the forefront of globally, but particularly in the US, has been the hiring of apprentices. It's relatively still new for many organizations listening in to Future Strong. Would you just share a little bit about kind of how it features as part of your plan and some of the things you've done to help recruit apprentices?
Yeah, I absolutely love our apprentice program because in my mind, there are so many people with so much talent and so much potential and so much hunger to make a change and to really dive into the spaces that we're working in. And they have such a huge passion for things like the technology areas that we're working in. And in my mind, why would you limit that to only people who have a bachelor's degree when you can create training programs and you can create a structure that really helps people acclimate to your working environment, but also brings in so many more people with more diverse experiences and more diverse backgrounds. And so at Accenture, we've been growing our apprenticeship program over the last couple of years to essentially widen our talent pool and the people that we're bringing into Accenture, to people who might not have that degree, who are coming from a different experience and really want to be here. And that's the kind of people we want. We want those people who want to be here, who want to work hard, who are resilient and agile and kind of have that drive. And that's what we've seen from a lot of our apprentices. And it's really, really cool to watch. Now, the biggest thing about it too is that when you do widen your pool in that way, and when you bring in people from so many different backgrounds, you're also helping the bigger impact of who's at the table designing and solutioning ideas. With a company like Accenture, we're I mean, the reality is we're huge, right? We're big. We have clients everywhere, in every industry, who are connecting with customers and people across so many different communities. And if we're not bringing in people who are from different backgrounds and who can help connect us to the broader world, then we're really missing out on something. And so our apprentice program is helping us make sure that we have the right people at the table, that we have diverse experiences at the table, and so that we can ultimately create solutions that are going to bring that perspective and are going to help make a huge impact on the community, especially from our client perspective and the solutions that we bring there. So it's been growing a lot over the last couple of years, and it's been really, really cool to see. And if you want, I could talk a little bit about how we've approached recruiting apprentices as well.
Yeah, and I guess attracting them would be great to hear, because I think so many of the clients that Lindsay and I speak to, and I'm thinking of your book Remix, Lindsay, you call out apprenticeships as one of the approaches to support the generational workforce, or the generations in the workforce. And I think sometimes in the US people are nervous about, how do I go about even sourcing apprentices? It'd be great just to hear a little bit about that and some of the things you've done to assess them.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a sourcing perspective, we work with a lot of different agencies and programs who, things like people are going through boot camps to learn different software programming languages, right? So we work with a lot of different agencies. We work with a lot of diversity programs who are kind of helping people connect them. So there are so many different agencies out there who can help you connect to apprentice talent. So that's been a huge piece for us, and is one of our primary sources with the apprentice pool. And then from a recruiting perspective, once we actually attract them and get them in the door to start learning about us, the biggest tip, and that's kind of where the majority of my job comes in, and the biggest tip there I've learned when looking at the apprentice program is you can't approach it the same way that you would your traditional campus recruiting. You can't approach it the same way you would your traditional experienced hire recruiting. It's a different audience. It's a completely different audience. And so you kind of have to go back to the drawing board, talk to people who are apprentice talent, talk to people who have gone through it, understand their experiences, what was unique about it to them, and really begin with that stage of the audience that you are designing for from a recruiting experience perspective. What I've learned is that those experiences from an apprentice talent standpoint are very diverse and very different, which is a great thing, because that means we're doing our job of getting diverse people in the door. But it also means you need to be really versatile with the way that you recruit. A lot of people have full-time jobs. Some people are working night shifts. Some people are taking care of their family. Some people are doing all of those things at the same time. And so it's making sure that it's approachable and it's possible, right? We have a saying at Accenture called boundaryless opportunities. And if we don't make those opportunities available to you and approachable to you, then you're not going to get that apprentice talent. So you've got to make sure that your interview timings are going to be something that are versatile and that people can work around, and we can get people at a time that works for them, just kind of meeting them halfway. The other thing that I'll say too is bringing some of the purposes of the program into the way that you recruit. So we have a huge training and support focus. And so we are beginning to bring that into the way that we recruit. Nikki, it's something we're partnering with Capfinity on, this new program called V. And we plan to launch something that's going to be able to help them learn about their strengths, learn about the work that we do at Accenture. So they're learning about the work and themselves at the same time, which then ultimately can help them in those conversations with our people, into these interview conversations that might seem intimidating. The more that you can prepare by saying, hey, if you want to do this, it's optional, right? Because you're really busy. You have a lot going on. If you want to do this, you can learn more about yourself so that ultimately people get some of that training and that coaching up front that they can take with them either to Accenture or to another place that they work, and bringing that real purpose outside of just when they join to the recruiting experience is a really cool point.
Jada, you mentioned working with Capfinity on V, which is obviously a product that we talk about a lot here. As a last question, I know that Accenture has been very committed to strengths-based recruiting and assessing of talent. Can you talk about how that helps you recruit, and in particular, how it's helping you recruit diverse talent, whether it's at the campus level, experienced or apprentice?
Yeah, I think one of the main things it's helped us with is bringing some more consistency to the way that we interview. And so looking at the way that our interviewers ask questions, looking at the way that we assess, and making sure that we bring some more consistency to that so that we can decrease unconscious bias as much as possible. It's something that's always going to be there. And so the more structure that we can put in place up front, that's been really, really helpful. The other thing that's been helpful about that strengths-based approach is that we've also been looking at the different ways that we look for strengths, right? So we have digital experiences, we have scenario-based experiences, and we have those questions and the answers, right? So we have these different ways of assessing candidates so that we can have that more well-rounded view of who they are. Some people are going to be stronger in a digital assessment. Some people are going to be stronger in that in-person assessment. And so making sure that we have so many different areas covered so that hopefully we can see where their strengths are in one way or the other. And so it's something that's been really, really important to us. I know it's really important to Capfinity as well. That's one of the reasons that we've formed such a strong partnership on this, is because it is something that Accenture has always cared about, is diversity, and always will, and will continue to push for. And the way that we assess is so important, that it's fair and it's equitable. And so the more that we can bring some of that structure, help decrease bias through different ways, bring in different views, the better. And we're going to continue to look at the impact of those results so that we can ensure that we're constantly getting that fair and equitable process and getting the right people to the right job, because it also doesn't help anyone if you're not getting the right people for the right job, right? We want people to be successful, and so putting things in place that are going to help us find their strengths and help us find the right role for them is the best possible scenario. And so I think it's really helped us just from a consistency standpoint, and will continue to help us. And it's something that we look at constantly and will continue to look at in the way that we assess, so that we can ensure that we're doing that in the best way possible. And anywhere that you can decrease bias, the better. And so I've been really grateful for the partnership on that, Nikki and team. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it makes an impact in our recruiting process. We're still in that kind of early stages with our first 2 years in it, from piloting different experiences. And so it'll be cool to see the results of that later on.
Well, thank you, Jada, and thank you as ever for your support with sessions like this, but being so giving with the recruiting and early career community, because the things that you share that are practical, I don't think any of us will forget you videoing from your closet. Amazing to get those. Lindsay, as the narrator, is going to just take 3 key takeaways for the audience, which we will share more broadly on social media. And then we will tee up next week's or 2 weeks' time our guest. So over to you, Lindsay, and thank you, Jada.
Thank you, Nikki. Jada, that was so informative, and thank you for matching the macro and the micro of how you planned your B and then exactly how you did it. So my takeaways from our conversation with Jada Green are really highlighted in 3 words: purposeful, versatile, and consistent. You were so purposeful in the way you connected with interns and created a true sense of belonging. And something we've heard a lot, and I think you really brought home, is that there are moments when we want big group conversation, but what's really valuable is the intimacy, the one-on-one connection. And you were very purposeful in making sure you had buddies and mentors and programs in place to make everybody really feel connected to the humans in your organization. Second, you talked about being versatile in how you recruit and being really mindful that an early career recruiting strategy is different from an experienced career recruiting strategy, which is different from an apprenticeship program. I love just the simple example of what time people are invited to interview and being thoughtful and empathetic around people's schedules and the realities of their world. And I think that's, again, both macro and micro. And finally, being consistent in using a strengths-based approach as another way to try to root out unconscious bias as much as we can. And I think, of course, that's one of the huge advantages of the strengths model that Capfinity brings with V. So Jada Green, thank you so much. Purposeful, versatile, consistent.
I love it.
Wonderful. Well, Jada, thank you. And as we say goodbye to you, we will be welcoming in 2 weeks' time Vince Bond from Synchrony, and he's going to be sharing everything that he's been working on within early career talent in recent years. And he's a dear friend of Lindsay, so we will look forward to hearing all of their stories together. Jada, once again, thank you so much, and good luck with everything that you're going to navigate over the coming months. It's a busy season, we know, for you, and we look forward to maybe in the autumn hearing how it goes. So have a great weekend, everybody, when it comes round, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.